Storm Over Jerusalem, The Roman Siege, by Scott Blanton, developed by Ray Farrell. This is a game from MMP that just released that I am very excited for because I am a huge Ancient gamer, and when MMP added this to their catalog, I couldn't hit pre-order fast enough. We don't have enough games on this topic. This is the 70 AD siege of the city of Jerusalem during the revolt, during the Roman Empire, the early days of the Roman Empire. This is also my first Storm Over game. I have not played any of the other ones. I know they have a good reputation. They are area-based movement games, or area-based siege games, if you want to call them that. This one in particular is a siege game, obviously. And what immediately attracted me about this was not only the topic, but it was a great place for me to dip my feet into the Storm Over system with something that I felt like I would be very interested in. And it's not often you see Ancients games coming out of Multiman Publishing. So there's a lot here that really caught my eye as being really interesting. I find that when MMP announces a new game, the more sort of offbeat it is for them, the more interested I am. So same thing with Crown and Crescent, which is the game coming out about the South Carolina campaign during the American Revolution that they've got, that they put on pre-order around the same time as this. I really love MMP's sort of what the international game series, I guess they call it. One of my favorite CDGs of all time is Kingdom of Heaven, which is about the Crusades, and also takes place in the same part of the world, just, 1,000 years later. So, Storm Over Jerusalem, the Roman Siege. Figured we would just do a quick unboxing. I did want to point out that this is, unlike most MMP games, which are part of systems, and they can be pretty complicated, this one is rated as a very low complexity, low solitaire suitability game. It's going to use cards. We've got the city of Jerusalem in different areas. The components are actually quite nice, but this one is not going to be a big, complex game. This one's going to be a game that probably plays in, I don't know, a couple hours maybe, if what I've seen in here is any indication. So let's pop this open and show you what comes in this. All right, so opening the box, a couple things that I am noticing immediately. One, a tuck box for cards. I have not seen MMP, or really any publisher actually, do this, short of maybe on Kickstarters. But the one thing I want to say about this is I love this. It is a paper tuck box with a sort of plastic window here. This is so much more environmentally friendly than shrink wrapping decks of cards. So much plastic in the production of games in terms of shrink wrapping them. One of the things I really enjoy about Operational Studies Group, OSG, Library of Napoleonic Battles, they don't shrink wrap their boxes. So having cards come in a paper, mostly paper tuck box, really big fan of that. And then what's also great about this is that you can put the cards back in this. You can keep this and have a place to put your cards. So you don't have to use rubber bands or have them flying all over the box. So love this. We'll look at the cards in a moment. We got 4 pairs of dice, two blue, 2 red to reflect the factions, Roman and Judeans. We'll keep those aside, typical MMP dice. Here's the rule book and the cover art. Would hate to be some of those folks falling off the wall. It's a very thin rule book. That's the one thing to notice. It's a semi-gloss paper. The type is pretty small, but it's very colorful. Talking about the cards, it doesn't appear like this is a super in-depth, intense game. And because most of the Storm Over games have typically focused on modern combat, I believe this is the first one in sort of an Ancients period, which is another reason I was interested in this. But you can see things like assault, assigning damage points, and so forth. I actually don't know how this plays, so I can't comment on the gameplay, but I think the topic is super fascinating. We get to page 8, and we're already into special rules. There's about a page and a half of special rules. Judean leaders, victory condition, and then a few optional rules you can use on page 10. So 10 pages of pretty heavily illustrated rules with examples and so forth. So we're not talking about a complicated game whatsoever, which is, sometimes very nice. Nice breather. We have got a counter sheet here. These are very large counters. You can see by my thumb, they look almost like 3/4 of an inch, maybe 9/16. So red, we've got Romans, we've got legionnaires, we've got auxilia, siege towers, the Romans obviously besieging the city to put down the revolt there, some cavalry. Then we've got some Judeans. Simon, I don't know too much about the actual siege itself, but I do know that these are Judean counters, and they each come with values, which we'll find probably from the rules. So that's one counter sheet. Then we've got a player aid card. It's very colorful. So we've got the sequence of play. You're going to draw cards. You're going to alternate impulses. There's an end phase. And here's all the things you can do with your impulses. You can do unit actions, Move, attack, assault, card actions, play for an event, or discard to repair a wall section or build a siege tower or pass. So it looks like it's fairly card driven. And anyone who's played the Storm Over series, let me know. I know that they've gone everywhere from Asia to Europe and during World War II. Here's some VPs, reminders, Roman siege tower rules, repairing the walls, Judean supply, and unit refreshment. On the back, we've got how to do an attack, how to assault, how to apply damage, when you breach the walls, and Judean leader placement rules. So we've got a player aid there. I assume we're going to get 2 of those. Here's the map. We'll come to that. Here's another counter sheet, a second one, not full. Got some walls markers, some control markers, VP out of supply, and here's some other Judean units. So it looks like we've got the units under Simon and the units under John here. Double-sided, of course. Looks like the back side of the counter only has 1 value on it. That's pretty interesting. Maybe a defense value. We've got another player aid here, and that might be it. Yeah, there we go. So let's crack the cards and the map. So here we have the map for Storm Over Jerusalem. This is the city itself, an aerial view. Excuse me. Here's the Hippodrome, the amphitheater, all Roman stuff. So you can see that areas are labeled: the city of David, the lower city, the Hippodrome, the Hulda Gates, Absalom's Pillar, which is an exterior zone, it looks like. We've got a number, which I assume is a unique identifier for each zone. Who controls it? Possibly terrain in here. Maybe looks like these might be indicating fortified areas in the city. Really nice artwork. I think it's really evocative. It's going to be great when it's on the table to see the individual streets and buildings that are here. The Temple Mount, that one's worth VP. The Antonia Fortress, Israel's Pool, Struthion Pool. So, and then as we get to the outskirts here, so it's interesting. You've got sort of the inner city that's got its own subdivision of walls, and then you've got the external outer wall of the city, the new city, as it's labeled here. And we've got what appear to be entry zones where the Romans are probably going to come in. And then up at the top, we've got turn track with hand size, VP, and supply track, and then some reminders about how to play. Oh yeah, here's the terrain. So +1 defensive value, +2 defensive value, +3 defensive value. So it seems as you start to carve your way into the city, it gets a little bit more difficult. Controlling here gets you a bonus card draw, it looks like. No siege towers in some of these zones. So it's going to be really fun to play. I really like the map. I think it's really nice, and I can't wait to see with all the counters all over it. Well, I spoke too soon. I opened the tuck box of the cards, and you know what? They're wrapped in plastic. So I take back everything I said. I mean, the tuck box is nice, don't get me wrong, but was there really a need to have this wrapped in plastic if they're already in the tuck box? Okay, 2 decks of cards, one for the Roman player, one for the Judean player. These are going to contain events and possibly action points. You can see that they use sort of a brown color here, at least on these. We've got things like siege towers. Here's the event. You can add it to 2 level 1 siege towers. Titus's leadership, combined assault, Roman brutality. Obviously, can't have a Roman siege without the Romans being assholes. Roman superiority, palisades, famine. Everyone's favorite military formation, the testudo, as they march up the ramp of earth to the city walls. There's a couple of those. Looks like there's maybe 2 of each card. Yeah. Titus leads the troops. Some of them are single use. Onagers, siege weaponry, catapults, ballista. So yeah, so they went with an artistic treatment for the cards that makes it look like old weathered paper, as if you're finding these as like a document in an archaeological dig. Got the same thing on the Judean side, divine intervention, Romane ite domum. There's some remove if played events, save the temple, keep the faith, additional defenses, escape the siege. Yeah, you definitely want to be doing that. Supplies, sortie. The artwork is pretty good. I think it's pretty evocative. I really like the artwork here. Captured Roman arms, rock attack. Yeah, there's some ranged rock slingers on top of a building. So it looks like there's a fair number of unique cards in the Judean deck, which is kind of interesting. The Lord of Hosts is with us. Look at that, God's light shining over the city. So this looks like a fun one to play. I'm very captivated by the subject, and I'm definitely something, if I can knock this out in an hour and a half, 2 hours with someone, especially someone who might be newer to wargaming. I always like a good siege. It's always very tense, and I know that the Storm Over series has had a good reputation, so I'm curious to see its application in this particular title. This is Storm Over Jerusalem, The Roman Siege by Multi-Man Publishing, just released, and very excited to add it to my queue.